Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats. I am Lainey Cavazos, retreat strategist and host of the show for coaches, entrepreneurs, and transformational leaders who want to design retreats that actually make money. If you've ever put your heart into a retreat only to walk away exhausted or worse, broke, you are not alone. This podcast is here to change that. Each week, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and expert insights to help you create meaningful, transformational retreats that also support your business, your lifestyle, and your bottom line. Let's make your next retreat not just powerful, but profitable. Hello, welcome to another episode of How to Run Profitable Retreats. And today I have Rebecca Norton here with me. And I'm so excited to have this conversation because we're going to be talking about matchmaking. And I know you might be wondering, what the hell is Lainey doing talking about matchmaking inside of a retreats podcast? But stay with us because you will see how important it is this conversation for your business if you do not already have a partner or a partner that actually supports your journey into entrepreneurship, into building your business. So I'm so excited because Rebecca is an award-winning speaker. She's a dating coach and she's an author with over a decade experience helping successful professionals build meaningful relationships. Known for her approachable yet expert guidance, she's coached hundreds of clients through dating challenges. Okay, so I am so excited to have you here, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh, yes. So let's start with, like the good stuff already. So why would someone talk to a matchmaker?
Oh my goodness. There's a lot of reasons. For one, the dating apps, people aren't getting anywhere in the dating apps. A lot of people are just, again, scrolling and maybe they're talking, but they're not getting out on the dates, or they're getting out on the dates and then it's more of like a catfish and they don't know, there's no security. They don't know exactly, who or what they're meeting. You know what I mean? With a matchmaker, everything's completely vetted. And, it's almost like you're getting matched by a good friend or a family member rather than, just winging it and meeting people online and not knowing what you're going to get when you get there. So, and with us too, we really go deep into an interview with you on a deeper level to make sure we know what you're looking for. And then the same with your matches. We're doing a very in-depth interview with your matches to make sure it's going to be a good fit for you. So
I love it. And I know this is very Luma Search is very much focused on this space of helping professionals. Mm-hmm. So, and I think this is one of the reasons I was so interested in your profile, because I have to tell everyone in the audience, I get just so busy with my businesses that I am exhausted and I cannot even think about opening up an app or anything. The most exciting thing that I have as options for dating is when I go on trips, or now that I'm going to by the time this episode is out, this will have happened already, but I'm going on to a cousin's wedding, and then they decided that they're going to put pictures of the single people inside of the bathrooms so they can meet.
Oh, that's right? Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, well, we want people to meet and match and whatnot. So they're super cool. But besides that, right, I am so busy with projects. I'm so excited. I'm traveling. I have my family. I have there's all these things happening that I don't really pay much attention to it. And it does not mean that I don't want it, but to a point, I do have to be honest with myself. Maybe, to a point where I'm well, do you really want it enough?
Yeah. Right? I agree. You have to, put the time and the effort into it, or you're not going to get anywhere. You have to put as much effort into your love life as you do, your career, your family, and everything else. You have to make that time for your love life too, or you're not going to meet your person. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have to put the work and the time in.
And what do you say? It's the biggest things that people struggle when they're looking, when they're in a professional world, right? Maybe entrepreneurs, maybe, C-suite. What do you find is usually the thing that's most challenging for them to actually, blend these two important pieces of their lives.
Yeah. Well, again, like we just talked about, I find that a lot of people come in, very career focused, and, they're not putting as much time into their, love life as they are their careers, but but again, they have to, make the time and put in the effort for their love life as much as they do their career. So, they spend a lot of time and effort, building successful careers. They need to do the same thing for their love life, because that's a huge part of your life at the end of the day.
Yes, I think I think this is actually very, very important, because at the end of the day, like, what is it like? Why would you like what like well, you might want that, but why would you want to like have like hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in your bank account and not be able to share it with anyone,
Exactly.
right? And be alone.
Exactly. Exactly. In working with us too, which is really great, we're going to meet you with like-minded individuals. So, you have a successful career, millions of dollars, your life's going great, them as well. We're going to match you with like-minded individuals. So we're not going to match you with someone who's maybe unemployed and,
Right.
dragging their feet in life.
Oh yeah, like, yes, and this makes a lot of sense, Rebecca. Like, I think when we are thinking about like finding your like your partner or whatnot, like we always are, like, at least in my case, right? I tend to become a little bit concerned about even like my own like judge of character, from the sense of like, who are you choosing? Are they? It's not even about like good enough. Are they like, are their values matching with yours? Are the goals in life similar, right? Can we work towards a like, are we going in a parallel kind of space, or are we going
Mhm.
towards separate directions? Because that tends to happen a lot, right? Like, I've seen it with my friends who got married with like the high school sweetheart, right? And then when they were 19, their goals seemed very similar, but now, right, like they're going
Right.
towards different directions and it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And
They're
then,
growing apart. Yeah.
yeah, so like finding these people, like, I think it's very it's important, but I would say also there is a piece where like do you trust yourself enough to choose the right person?
Well, that's what's funny about life, because a lot of times, someone who's single thinks that they know what they want. So they have this box with all these check marks about, they have to meet this, this, and this. But when you work with a matchmaker, we're matching you maybe with people who you wouldn't have picked for yourself. And that ultimately is what ends up working in the end, because for different reasons too. Like maybe someone's more focused on looks, but then they want, these different values that they're looking for. And maybe someone who isn't like drop dead gorgeous, but maybe still good looking, just not someone you would pick in a room, right? But they have every single thing you're looking for. You align on values and, hobbies, interests, everything just aligns. And that too, depending on, their personality, can make them more attractive as well. So I think the more open-minded you are,
Hmm.
the more successful you're going to be. You have to keep an open heart and an open mind. I would say that.
I really like this conversation. I think it's just so important in a way. And I like, like, I'll tell everyone who's listening this like little story. So I used to live in Dubai. I used to do loyalty marketing for Marriott, right? So absolutely amazing and like so much fun. But there's a big Indian population in Dubai, right?
Mm-hmm.
So big Indian population. And they do have arranged marriages, right? Like, it's parents meet and they're like, oh, my two kids would be perfect for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, I have to tell you, I had kind of these bias um thought about it. I was like, why would someone get why would like you allow your parents to choose who you're marrying? And of course, and there's also like in India also you have like caste systems, so it's very, I would say it's actually quite complex. Like, I wod say it's more, in general, I think it would be like, I would consider it like very, very complex matchmaking.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until actually I spoke to like the PR director for some of the brands and married, that she like got married under like like her family like made the match for her. it was only until I spoke to her and really had like in-depth conversation that I understood that, like, and of course it does not happen like this for everyone, but it's the case where like she actually like, she's like, I had 6 months to date my husband and then decide if I actually wanted to marry him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the introductions were made, but there's this whole process, like they check their chart, they natal charts, right, to make sure they're a match, and they see that like the families have similar values. So there is like, so the family is kind of doing I would say, like the pre-interview process for the prospect, and then being like, hey, we think this person might be a good match because it is a good match to the family, to you, to us, in a like 3,000 layers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like, I had this really biased kind of like matchmaking. Like, I mean, it's like they're choosing the person and they're being forced, and now I'm like, after that conversation, it really opened up my vision, right, into the space of really understanding, oh, this was really like a space where they're like just making sure the match is right, and still she had the last word.
Right.
Like, she's the one who said yes or no, not even him.
That's great. Yeah, that's like a custom culture thing. You know what I mean? But it just sounds like the parents are doing the matchmaking at the end of the day. So it's not a forced thing. It's a more of like a matchmaking thing, and they're getting together and seeing how things will go, and then making the decision at the end.
Yeah. So that was very, very interesting, I have to say. So when you're thinking about like, again, like when we're talking about, like professionals, we already spoke about, one of the biggest problems might be that you're not investing the time to actually meet someone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then that sometimes we have these like massive list of items on our list that we're like, okay, I need like my checklist of 300 points. And then
Mm-hmm.
the right person will show up.
Yeah.
But like, what else do you see out there in this space that really like is maybe not allowing people to balance everything? Because I know you have your book, like, and I think it's all about like getting love and loss and everything in between, and I think that's quite interesting. So like, what are like the key things that you are maybe looking for when you're matchmaking people to make them like, I'm gonna say a desirable prospect for the lack of better words, right? Like, what is the things that people need to be like, like maybe things that they need to be ready for or whatnot in order to get
Yeah.
in these
Well, one thing I would say is that, singles should make a list of 3 maybe deal breakers, but then they also, after they make that list, they need to take a step back and look at themselves and make sure they're aligning with those values as well. Because a lot of times, people will be looking for something specific, but then they're not living that life themselves. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really good thing to take a step back and look at. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times someone will say, I want someone who's, healthy lifestyle and awesome shape. But then at the end of the day, they're not in awesome shape, but they're not living a healthy lifestyle. You know what I mean? So you have to be there as well.
Actually, before you keep going, I remember I listened to this, like it was a reel from the wife of Grant Cardone, right? And then she was saying that she made a list of the things she wanted on a husband. And then one of the things was that he didn't smoke. But then on the other side, she was like, do I match these things? And then she's like, well, how can I ask my future husband not to smoke if I do? So then she's like, I need to live that life in order to find that person that like matches this, right? So that she quits smoking.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
What else?
Oh my gosh. The whole world of matchmaking is just like so large, you know what I mean? So it just varies from like person to person. So it just depends on the person. I mean, I think you making a list, and you also have to remember too that nobody's perfect. So you might have this checklist of things that you're looking for, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to be 100% perfect. So you want to pick like a few, what can you live with and what you can't you live with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. again, making time, putting in the work and the effort, because it's just not going to fall in your lap. I mean, maybe it does sometimes for some people, they get lucky, but for most people, it doesn't. You have to put in the time and the effort in dating and in relationships. When you're in a relationship, you have to put in that time and effort. You know what I mean? It's work. It's not, nobody's perfect. It's always work. And as long as you work at it and put that time and effort into it, it's going to work out.
I like it. So anyway, it really kind of like drills down into like investment in like time investment, like, you know, investing the time and your energy and your presence towards getting this. I mean, it is quite interesting in the sense of like, you know, figuring out like what you want, and then, you know, like any business, right? If you want it to thrive, you need to pay attention to it. Same with relationships,
right?
And then we were having this conversation behind the scenes, and I wanted to like to bring it up for, you know, for the audience who's listening to this space. Is like we were talking about, like, imagine like if you could go to a singles retreat where you're already kind of pre-matched in a way, like, you know, like you go, but there you already know, even maybe it's a cruise, right? Like maybe you already like know that they're gonna be bringing people who are aligned with your values, right? And then, you know, basically we kind of call it like, you know, it's all about like skipping the line. So I want everyone to think about it, you know, like wouldn't it be cool that you could create these introductions? And I mean, I do not mean this like the Bachelorette reality show style, right? In a very classy way where, you know, you get to go network with other people, create connections, right? Meet people and see what happens, right? And, you know, have these in-person experiences in a place that it's also safe, you know, like guided examples to deepen the trust and just create these connections and see, you know, like I can see busy business individuals like being like, yes, I want to go to this retreat because I'm gonna go and meet, like, you know, the like a few options, I would say. You know, it's not like it's a menu, but it kind of is. You know,
Yeah.
everything is kind of like a menu in life. So you go, you like, you know, and then you connect, and, you know, there's these spaces for connections and friendships and networking and all these kind of things. So I want to ask everyone in the audience for you to think about it in the space of like, would you be like interested actually? And maybe you want to, you know, leave a comment underneath the episode and tell us, like, would you actually, like, if you're single, only if you're single, okay? If you're single, would you attend a singles retreat? Would this be something that would call your interest, right? Would you be open to this conversation? And let us know, because I think this is something quite interesting that I hope, like, you know, Luma Search thinks about it and considers actually hosting a retreat for singles, and we'll be happy to support you throughout the process. This is like, you know, I think it will be amazing, especially like, you know, with all the like the detail and work that you put behind the scenes to make sure that the matches are great.
Yeah, and it sounds fun too. Because when you're dating, you got to remember to have fun. You know what I mean? You want to show up rigid or, you know, with a chip on your shoulder. You know what I mean? You want to have fun and, you know, get to know someone, especially in the beginning. And I will say, when you in the beginning of dating, especially on a first date, you want to keep things light and fun. And you don't want to like talk about like really heavy topics until you have a foundation established. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what somebody's thinking. If you talk about something too, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
heavy
like
in the beginning.
Yeah, you bring the list of all the puppies you've lost, right?
Yeah, right. Right. And sometimes people are showing up to dates too with like a chip on their shoulder because of past relationships. You have to, you know, let that go before you get out there and try it again. So
I want to like actually, you know, I want to go a little bit deeper into this topic because I think this is important, and I can tell you that has been me. Like, as much as like I do, you know, I meditate before I go on a date, or, you know, all the like things, like past relationships do make, like, you know, this kind of space.
mm-hmm.
And I have to say, like, a couple of years ago, I actually got a stalker. like I was dating someone for a couple of months, and then I ended it because it was not working. And anyway, like he cheated on me. I was like, no. And then he just decided to become my stalker for 1 year straight.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And there was nothing I could do or say, like new phone numbers, like the whole, like this, the stalker checklist, phone numbers I didn't know with phone calls, showing up at my place, friending my mom on Facebook, showing up at my mom's place, showing up at my brother's place, like really like intense, to a point where I did not even want to talk about it, because I always felt that I was summoning that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of like, whenever I mention something, suddenly the phone, right? Like, and like what's ringing, and I'm like, it's him again. And I tried everything. I tried praying, I tried sweat lodges, I tried cord cutting exercises, whatever I could find. My last resource was actually moving houses. I did not have to do it at the end. But when like one of these person that doesn't take a no for an answer, right? He was just certain.
Yeah.
I was wrong and he was in the right, I guess.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's the best way to put it together. And I do have to say it did like leave a mark in my in the way I show up on dates, for sure, because it makes me really think about it in a space of like, is this person also going to become a stalker?
Right. And see, that's what you don't want to do, because if you're always going into each date thinking, is this person going to be a stalker? 9 times out of 10 is probably going to happen again. You know what I mean? Because you're putting so much thought into it, you're going to manifest it. So you want to really work on yourself and let that go before you get out there again, because everybody's different and nobody's the same. So, if it happens, it happens, but you don't want to put a lot of energy into it thinking that it's going to happen.
Yes. And I've done a lot of work on it. I have to tell you, like right now, like if I go on a date, it's not my first thought, but at the beginning it was. Then it was. I was freaking scared, to be honest. Like that's it.
It is scary. That's scary.
It is quite scary. And, like it just like, okay, so no, don't be so nice to people and all these kind of things. And I also really I'm a person who's just like very talkative. I go on a date and I really like, if someone wants to know something, I'm not gonna be like, oh no, like I'm not a mouse, nothing. Like I am who I am in a way. But I do understand, and it took me a while to understand once something that my mom told me before I went on a date. And it was very interesting. I went on a date and my mom was like, Lainey, please don't be too smart.
Aw, that's cute.
You're gonna scare him away.
Aw, well, that's the thing. I mean, I think people tend to scare people away if they talk about too many things in the beginning on that date, because that first date, you want to keep things light, like I said, because if you start talking about stuff like that on the first date, it's going to scare him away, and then he's going to be like, I don't know about this. You know what I mean? So definitely keep heavy topics like past relationships for one,
Oh yeah, no, that's
trauma events, religion, politics, anything like that, keep out of the first date, because that could, ultimately scare someone away. So you don't know what they're thinking when you're talking about, even though you think it's like light and fun and you're just casually talking about it, you don't know what they're thinking, as you're talking about it. So you want to definitely have a foundation established before you start talking about things like that.
Oh yes, I totally agree, right? And it did take me a while to understand like really what my mom was trying to communicate. But once I got it, I was like, okay, I get it. It's not like she doesn't want me to be smart. It's just she doesn't, like there is a whole piece behind the scenes. So that was quite interesting for me, I have to say, for sure.
Yeah, that's cute. I like that she said that.
Yes, she like she loves me the most. So she always, she wants like the best for me, for sure. But I do have to say, it's quite like I am a very passionate person about like my work and what I do, and so sometimes I do not want to be talking about the weather, right? So like for me, like, and I encourage everyone to ask themselves, like, what is the thing that you find most attractive in a person? And for me, it's their brain. So if like we're talking about the weather for 2 hours, like I'm not gonna go on a second date.
Yeah, most people wouldn't. Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about the weather. You want to keep things fun and you want to, find that connection. And it's hard to, find a connection with someone if you're just talking about the weather. So I think that's a good thing to do too before you go on a date is think about, things that you find interesting that you would like to talk to, someone about. And maybe, especially with working with a matchmaker, you're going to know, you know what I mean? Like different things that you could connect on intellectually. So maybe while you're out on that date, you could ask questions that you learned about them beforehand to get them to go deeper into different conversations to start that conversation piece. You know what I mean? So you're not just like, oh, what do we talk about? Let's talk about
Right. Yeah,
you know
I
what
love
mean?
this.
Yeah. So like for instance, say you love traveling. Like if you're out on the date and you know that he loves traveling too, you could be like, oh, I heard you love traveling. Where's the last place you've been? What did you like about it? Ask different questions to keep the conversation going about it. So
This is great, Rebecca. Well, thank you so much for being here. Like, I mean, for everyone who's listening, I just like want to kind of like wrap up this, like all the thoughts that we brought together. And the reason Rebecca is here today is because we like as individuals, and a big piece of who I am and my brand and my business is that we want to have like a whole like approach, like a holistic approach to our business, to our lives. So it's not just about business and marketing and sales. It's also about wellness, relationships, like well-being, your mind, right? Like nurturing your mind. And I have to tell you, like I do a lot of the things, but I don't do all of them. And I'm like in the search, in the space of going towards that. And that's why I love bringing experts that bring a different topic into perspective for us, because it is so important to have this complete approach. And I was like, ooh, I think this is such an interesting conversation to have for everyone, anyone else that is out there that might be going through a similar situation that the one I'm going through, that we're so focused about our business. We're so excited. We have so much fun doing it, right? Like I love what I do. So like, I mean, I stop because I have boundaries with myself, but if not, I would be working all day long. But we're not maybe putting all the effort, even though we know that that is part of, the goals of our goals. So Rebecca, thank you so much for being here. So if people want to like reach out to you and you just connect, what would be the best way for them to
lumasearch.com.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll also have the link in the show notes for everyone who's listening. And if you like this episode, please leave a review for us. This really helps us get in front of more people. So, and being able to create more amazing episodes like this one. So thank you so much for being here today, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll see everyone next week.